Good morning, lovely friends. How are you all doing today? I hope you're well. It's suddenly got a bit cold here. Welcome to November. We had our first frost last night. It's about just a little under 10 degrees centigrade, which I think is about 48 Fahrenheit. Last night we were down to, I think we were down to 0, which is about 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So yeah, the season has definitely changed. Duh, you think, Vivi? Anyway, we're going to go out and have a look at the garden at the beginning of November. Just before we do, and hear Rusty in the corner. I've given him a couple of little treats. He's going mental for them. Generally, the night before the day when I know I'm going to film the tour, so it's usually sort of at the end of one month, just going into the next, I quite often have a look at the previous month's tour, just to remind myself, you know, what's changed in the garden, what I've managed to do. Because I think it's, when I certainly find this, I'll think to myself, I was in the garden a few days last week, what on earth did I do? I can't remember what I did. And that reminds me, actually, I haven't kept a proper garden journal for years, as in, you know, making a note of each visit. I think I might do that for next year, because honestly, the brain is turning into a sieve. I really don't remember. Anyway, so I was looking back at the tour at the beginning of October. It was actually, I think it was the 7th of October. It was a bit late. And looking at it now, I think, wow, yeah, I did get quite a bit done. The changes might not be obvious, but yeah, managed to squeeze quite a lot in. I was away from the garden throughout October quite a lot again, but yeah, got done what needed to get done. And I think the biggest change is the fact that all my brassica nets are off. Now, I just want to say something about that, just really, really quickly before we go out there. I learned the hard way last year. When it got to that point, and it's usually sometime in October when we see the last of the cabbage white butterflies flitting around, I think, yay, I can get my nets off because I want to see my veggies. And when I did it last year, I was hedging my bets a little. I hadn't seen any cabbage whites for a couple of days, really wanted to get the nets off, but I wasn't sure if I was being a bit ahead of myself. So when I took the nets off, I left all the blue water piping hoops in, so that if, you know, suddenly I start seeing a load of butterflies again, I could just quickly whip all the nets back over. I thought I was being a genius. However, what I'd inadvertently done with the water pipes is I had provided perfect pigeon pecking perches. So everywhere that there was a blue water pipe, the brassicas either side were really, really pecked. I think, how long did it take me to realise that? Maybe a couple of weeks or so. As soon as I realised it, took the hoops out. So this year when I took my nets off, all the hoops went away as well. I don't want those pigeons having anywhere to perch. Unfortunately, the girls next door, I wasn't here when they took their nets off. They took the nets off, left the hoops in, and yet they've pretty much lost the lot. They had, what did they have left? I think it was Cavolo Nero. It was either Cavolo Nero or a type of kale. I mean, just decimated. So when I saw them the following day, I saw the damage, and I happened to see them that day as well. And I said, quick, get the hoops out, because the plants may just about recover. They may recover. They may get a few new leaves shooting, hopefully. Anyway, so yeah, if you're taking your nets off at the moment as well, do consider removing the hoops completely, so those pesky pigeons don't get a free pecking perch. It's easy for me to say. All right, my lovelies. So maybe I think we're getting into glove weather really soon. So wrap up warm. Let's go and see how the garden is doing at the beginning of November. Rusty. So noisy. Right, garden. Here we are at the top of the garden, as always, for the tour. And the sun is trying to come out. We may have shadow issues. But just before we get stuck in, there's a long shot of the garden. Yay, the nets are off! Well, mostly. The nets are off the brassicas. They've gone on elsewhere. So, let's see. How are things doing? Oh, look. That frost. It's kind of made my cosmos a little bit wilty. But hopefully there are enough, or there have been enough seed heads on this to drop seed to self-seed for next year. And I didn't, in the end, deadhead it. I just thought, oh, for goodness sakes, I've got other things to be getting on with. The verbena, or the verbenas, last of the little flowers before they become gorgeous seed heads for the goldfinches. Lovely. And below the sign, oh my goodness, this massive sort of limey green, that's the Limnanthes douglasii, the poached egg plants. And then just over there, that's forget-me-nots. You're too early. I don't want to see you lovelies until March next year. Oh, they're trying though, aren't they? Oh, and the tree lily, it's beginning to die back. So, as I mentioned previously, I now moved it this winter, the last winter we had. When did I move it? December last year, January this year? Anyway, once it's died back, I do want to go down there and move it because you see how close it is to the path. So I want to lift it from there and get it sort of more in there. Just so that there's no risk of it trying to come up in the path, because then I'd have to just cut it off and that would be a shame. But also in just walking past it, I don't want to be brushing the blooms off, and I certainly don't want to be knocking pollen off because it's not good for the cats. Oh, I'm so looking forward to having my first parsnips out. Now that we've had a frost, in theory, I could. I may do. I think what I might do in the next couple of weeks or so is have a couple out from this end. One from where I transplanted the thinnings, and then another from one of the ones that I didn't move and disturb. And then we'll get an idea of how I'm expecting it to be incredibly unsuccessful. But we can have a look. And I can have a scoff. Yay! Oh, and if you remember about mid-September, this is all the calendula. I'd really missed the best of the harvest by being away. I did manage to get lots of seed for next year and a few blooms, but I cut it all back right down to where, if there was any sign of growth still, down to that. And I did, although they've gone over already, I did get a couple new blooms. Yay! Even if they don't flower, I will leave those in over winter. Roots in the soil, good for the soil. So they can stay in until the very last minute. This will be an onion bed next year, so yeah, they can stay in through till April now. Another bed covered. This was the chickpeas and rocking core. So once I'd sharpened my secateurs, or pruners if you're in the States, I was able to crop, chop and drop that lot and get it covered. And look at this Portuguese cabbage. It just keeps giving and giving and giving. I mean, look at the size of it. I mean, this is a trunk now. This isn't a stalk. It's a trunk. Let me show you my hand for comparison. It's whopping. Massive. Oh, and this is what I love at this time of year. Is these where the frost was and it's starting to defrost. These beautiful little diamonds scattered on the leaves. Gorgeous. It doesn't know when to stop. Oh, beautiful. These central ones, so tender. Yum, yum, yum. Good. That is doing its thing and pumping out good stuff. Another covered bed. That's actually covered since the end of September. The chard is going gangbusters still. It looks a little bit floppy this morning. You see, flopped over. It's just because it had a bit of frost last night. But actually, as the day warms up, it will perk up. It will survive a few mild frostings. Yay, 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 nets off, nets off. Purple sprouting broccoli. They look mostly pretty good. But I think whilst they were waiting to be put in here, look at these leaves have been nibbled. I think when I transplanted them from their pots that were in the cold frame out into this bed and then got them covered, I think there must have been a couple of caterpillars on them already, because I do have a few a few lacy leaves. Not enough to concern me. Now, one of the things I really need to get on with in terms of brassica cares, and this is for all the brassicas, is one, I need to get stakes in next to all of them, a support pole. You'll see why shortly as we get to the kale. But also, can you see underneath, that's all bare soil. So I need to get mulching. I've got a plan. Next door, the garlic are now in. Any signs? No, of course not. Oh, we're all the same though, aren't we? The minute we seed something, I mean literally the next day we'll have a look, won't we, to see if there's anything showing. But of course there's nothing showing yet. But yay, glad to have those in. Oh, the light is gorgeous suddenly. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, and just a word on the grass paths. I did strim and trim about a week ago, but because until now it's been relatively mild out here and very, very wet, we've had a lot of rain again, the grass is growing. So I think probably in a week or so, our temperatures are supposed to be coming back up a bit. I'll give it a week, let it all dry out a little bit, but then I'll probably give it its final cut and edge trim of the year. And then, oh, Rusty. Rusty's having a little bathe in the sun. Yeah, I'll do its last strim and trim in the next fortnight or so. Yay. Oh, and of course the Cavallo Nero are now out of the nets. But you can see, so what happened was that I took the nets off and then I hadn't looked at the weather forecast. I hadn't seen that we were going to have 4 days of really high winds and lashing rain. They've all been really, really battered. I did a bit of a temporary fix on these two, but then the bamboos came out again. So, I mean, look, you can see the angle they're at. And brassicas really, really don't like being knocked about in the wind. I mean, look, they're nearly on their sides. So yes, sorting out the brassicas, both in terms of giving them support poles and getting them mulched, is the next priority. But they've been doing great for me. Well, you can I do think they're funny at this stage where I've been scoffing. So all the way down the stems, they look like little sort of prehistoric palm trees. So when I'm harvesting, I'm always taking lower leaves and letting the top continue to throw up new ones. Oh, something's had a peck there. Pesky pigeons, but without perches. Beautiful, beautiful sight in this morning sunshine. This bed has finally been covered, and its neighbour. So again, underneath the cardboard, literally any dying plant material, bean pods, as I've been podding like mad, anything like that. It's all just chopped, dropped, and then covered. Sleep tight, beds. The celery is now starting to come into its own. I tend to use the celery mostly in the winter for sort of adding into soups. It's not huge this year, as it has been in previous years. This was my saved seed. It's the first time I'd saved and grown from my own seed with celery. And, you know, I mean, they've done okay. They're serving a purpose. They're just about half the size that my celery has been in previous years. So I don't know that that seed was great, but it's what I had, so I used it. And I am getting a scoff. It's a cover job. Now, I'm going to just bring you around the other side because of the light. This is 2 rows of Calabrese. Next door, 2 rows of Savoys. Oh! Yay! Oh my goodness, I hadn't spotted this one. Oh, it's going to try and flower soon. You're coming off for my tea. Where can I stand to show you? I know. Here. Oopla. Can you... Oh no, this might be a better angle with my shadow right in the way. Can you see how they're all on a slant that way? I think this is 2 things has happened. I think where they've got to the top of the nets, I should have made them bigger nets sooner. As they've been sort of crushed against the top of the nets, they've had to go a bit sideways. But also, that's showing you exactly the prevailing wind pattern on my site. So, there's no way I can get them straightened up now. But what I can do is stop them going any further. So, for instance, here, where's the best angle to get you? I mean, it's going that way instead of that way. And what I don't want, I mean, these won't get much bigger, so it's not so much of an issue. But what I don't want with, say, the purple sprouting and the cavallo is I don't want them ending up flopping over the paths and getting damaged as people walk by. So, yeah, priority job. And the other thing, of course, with Calabrese is I'll take the head out, but I'll leave the plant in and get little extra shoots of heads, little teeny tiny ones, and when they're all done, eat the leaves. And this is another leaf I love to eat. I might have put a mix of cabbages in here. I thought I'd done all Savoys. This one is looking very Savoy-like. Oh, you're pretty. Whoops, sorry. Beautiful. I love that crinkly leaf. But that one doesn't look like a Savoy. Oh, look, the beautiful light on the... Oh, sorry, shadows. This light on the little bits of dew. Gorgeous. Now, for some reason... Now, the thing... Sorry, what I should say is, these are really low to the ground. Once the brassicas are that high, the pigeons, if they've got nothing to land on, they can't peck them. Of course, when they're so low to the ground, the pigeons can just walk on the ground and peck them. And I think that's what's happened to that one and that one. I will leave them in with this bit of mesh on them, see if that protects them a bit. And again, just hope they sprout again a little bit. You know, even if they only sprout 1 leaf, it's still something to eat. Oh my goodness. The garden really is looking bare now. So in these 2 tunnels, I've got my 4 rows of broad beans. No, there is no sign of germination yet. More covering, more cropping and dropping. And also, I don't know if you remember how this looked back at the beginning of September, but oh my goodness, the weeds. My paths had virtually been taken over by grass again. I've got a bit of a theory about that, which I'll talk about in a bit more detail in another video. So these final beds, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, these were all squash beds. They all had the horse muck added to them, and these are the last ones to get covered. But yeah, I've got some thoughts about all of this, so I'll share that with you in another video. Oh, the nasturtiums. I've been sharing my nasturtiums, as you probably remember, with Kai. The patch in bed number 2, which we've just left, I took them all out and gave to her. But look what happens with a frost. They are done for. Yes, you can see green, you can see their flowers, but I know that that's killed them basically. And in another couple of days they'll just be a sad slimy mess. But I left them and left them and left them because they're so pretty. But now they were going to become compost and more crop and drop. Still quite a bit of tidying up to do. Yikes. But oh my goodness, these paths. I'm so happy to get the weeds out. Oh my goodness, some of them were... I had to get my spade out down here. Some of them were so deeply rooted. The last of the Coco de Pampol plants I harvested about, I think 2 weeks ago. I harvested the pods that I'd left on to dry for seed saving. They all came home safely podded, spread out for final dry, so now that bed is also covered. There wasn't, by this stage in the game, there wasn't a lot of plant matter left on them for chopping and dropping, so I took some material out of the compost bins. Oh dear, my rather wonky, jaunty kale forest. So this is what I mean. After I'd taken the nets off, I came back. It was about 4 or 5 days later after this windy storm had passed through, and they were over the paths. So I hastily put some bean canes in next to them, but they're old canes and quite a lot of them snapped, so I've had to recane them. And then, oh, you can see this one on the end. Let me show you from this angle. Excuse my shadow. Well, you can see the direction of the cane. It's supposed to be here, holding up. What's it holding up? Oh yeah, there's sorry about that angle. Yeah, it's supposed to be keeping this kale here. The second Cove Tronchuda seedling that Paul gave me, I mean, look, that's gone on a root march. It's at a 45-degree angle. Again, it's not one that I'm going to be able to straighten up, but let's take a step back and see if I can show you what I mean. I mean, it's planted there and it's growing there, but what I might try and do is put a stake here to at least, hold it in place here. Oh, they've taken a right battering. Oh, it's such a lovely, lovely colour though. And again, they're getting a bit threadbare down below where I've been harvesting, but in the tops, oh my goodness. Again, I just adore this site at this time of year. Such a beautiful colour. You just kind of know that that's going to do you good to eat it, don't you? Lovely. Yay! And then finally the herb bed, as you saw the other day. I've been having quite the tidying up session in it. Gosh, it's looking bare, isn't it now? It always amazes me how the difference in the garden between sort of the end of September, end of October, beginning of November, it's the big change, isn't it? So the French lavender was harvested. It's really straggly and pathetic. Obviously the English lavender was harvested in September and did great. The the two sedums that Paul gave to me, that one's done great. This one though, for some reason, I mean, it got absolutely mullered by, I don't know what, something shredded it. But I can see already down there, look, at its crown, the new little rosettes forming for next year's spikes, and likewise in that one. So now that I know that that one's the white one and that one's the pink, I can decide where to give them a permanent planting. But otherwise, yeah. Bare. And remember in the herbs video I said I really hacked the hyssop back. And yes, I've got ideas about what to put there instead. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, yes, it's all in its winter coat nearly, isn't it? Briefly interrupted by a visit. Yeah, saying it's all starting to look like it's in its winter coat. There's still a little bit of work to do. Just a little bit. Last beds to be covered. A bit of cares with my brassicas. A bit of tidying up. Just enough things to do to keep me out of mischief and to keep getting me outside. Oh, yes. Lovely. Happy days. I'll see you all again really soon, I hope. But for now, cheerio.